buzz over the greatest game ever played by any athlete in any sport in the history of bipeds. Well, not the greatest game ever played by any athlete, just the most points ever scored in an NBA game in living memory. Well, not the most points ever scored in living memory, but nevertheless an epic performance, unmatched by any player still active today in the world's greatest sports league. Except Kobe Bryant, who scored exactly the same number of points 5 years ago, and one more point 8 years ago, and 4 more 7 years ago, and 20 more 8 years ago. So not the greatest game ever played by any athlete in any sport in the history of bipeds, and not the most points ever scored in an NBA game in living memory, and not a performance unmatched by any player still active today except for Kobe Bryant, but the magic number of 61, King James, the most points scored in an NBA game in many a long year. 38 days? 38 days. The most points scored in an NBA game in 38 days. Since Carmelo Anthony dropped 62 on January 24th. Oh, James did his 61 against the fifth stingiest defense in the league, the Charlotte Bobcats. The same team Anthony scored his 62 against. Okay, I give up. I keep trying to quantify the enthusiasm to explain why this exceptional but absolutely not record-setting performance merits an uninterrupted 24 hours of media attention, and I keep slamming my head against these pesky little facts. Well, I'm not slamming my heads. Others? Ker-flickety-plunk. One writer invoked Joe DiMaggio. The truly gifted are capable, when giving their all, writes Ethan Skolnick of Bleacher Report, of showing the audience something they won't see from anyone else ever again. Well, yeah, if you'd said that about Melo's 62, you would have had to write, something they won't see from anyone else ever again for 6 whole weeks. Even James himself got carried away on Instagram. Man, all I can say is what a night. Strive for greatness, witness history, with a Photoshop 61 on his uni. Honoring Bronson Arroyo, no doubt. A mark which will last a lunchtime. But for getting your head turned, and this is despite the fact that our own Tom Haberstroh used the word poetry, our winner is Ira Winderman of the South Florida Sun Sentinel. This was captivating. Theater of the highest quality. 25 points in the third quarter, 37 points in the second half. That was breathtaking. Excuse me. Wilt Chamberlain scored 28 points in the third quarter, 59 points in the second half. If James was breathtaking, what would that have been? Coma-inducing? Look, LeBron James tied for the 42nd most points ever scored in an NBA game. You know what the 42nd most rushing yards in a modern NFL game is? The record is Adrian Peterson's 296. 42nd best is 221 yards. Not only was it done by Gerald Riggs and Greg Bell, but it was done by Gerald Riggs and Greg Bell on consecutive weeks. Well, actually, it's not even as impressive as that. LeBron James finished at 61% of the all-time record. 61% of the all-time rushing yardage is a 181-yard game. 61% of the most homers in a game is 2.5 homers. Again, don't get me wrong. It's always fun to see somebody pile up a bunch of points. It's always fun to see a supremely skilled athlete leaping off the background of the team sport that so often circumscribes him. But that's all it is. Fun. LeBron James scored 61 fun points against the Charlotte Bobcats. Exactly 1 fun point more than Gilbert Arenas had. 1 fun point more than Tom Chambers had. 5 years after Tom Chambers did it, the only team he could get a job with was McAfee Tel Aviv. But we ignore all that. If, as sports fans, we rush to tear somebody down at the first opportunity, the only thing for which we rush faster is to build a pedestal for a great player and declare him the greatest ever, or his game the greatest ever, or his face mask the greatest ever. So desperate are we to create instant history that we forget real history. 61 points for LeBron James. You know how many 61-point games Chamberlain had? I mean, if he only scored 61 points in each of his unstoppable games, what, 10, 15, 29? Wilt Chamberlain did what LeBron James did last night, or better, or a lot better, or 39 points better, 29 times. And on December 1st, 1961, Wilt scored 60 against the Lakers. A week later, on the 8th, he scored 78 against the Lakers. The next night, the 9th, he scored 61 against Chicago. He scored 139 points on consecutive nights. Did LeBron James follow his 61 last night against Charlotte with 78 tonight against Houston? Spoiler alert, no, he didn't. Wade was back. He only had 22, and he clanked a potential game-tying 3. Different time, different game, different world. Jordan did 61 or more 5 times. Still too remotely past for you. Bryant did it 4 times, plus a 5th where he topped off at 60. Again, it was brilliant, and it was thrilling, and it was fun. It was fun to do the highlights here, but honest to goodness, can we put away DiMaggio and breathtakingness and poetry, and you'll never see this again, because you'll see this again. In the last 10 NBA seasons, this is the 9th 60-point game. It's like they say about catching trains. Don't run for a train. There will always be another.